Good evening. My name is Rodney Glover, candidate for governor of Florida, continuing to try to show you why it's important that we get more control over our elected officials. Because I have no faith, honestly, in Democrat and Republic leadership whatsoever, or even the representatives we currently have. And here's why. You guys remember when the Biden pardons came out? I'm going to read it to you. The Biden pardons, the wording was focused on granting full, complete, and unconditional forgiveness for federal offenses, often referencing broad categories like those arising from or in any manner related to specific service, i.e., COVID response, January 6 investigations, or general criminal acts aiming to provide relief from potential politically motivated prosecutions, with pardons sometimes issued via auto pen for high volume, leading to that controversy and validity, right? So we remember that happening, and everybody was kind of in an uproar like, hey, there's a problem. This is not okay. You shouldn't just be able to use the pardon power to get everybody off, and they never got a chance to be investigated for some of the things that they could have done. And I don't see anything wrong with that. Like, hey, if you actually did something, we have an entire Justice Department that is supposed to maintain this evidentiary track and find out and clear you because you're innocent and proven guilty, but to make sure that the things brought up against you are not valid so we can make sure that we maintain the integrity of our system as it is currently. Now, remember, citizens, we don't have any power to push anybody in one direction or the other. We can just put people in the office. Do y'all know this? They have presented legislation to mitigate or to put in factors that say you cannot continue to just use these pardons to get everybody off. That's not okay. Several legislative efforts, primarily proposed constitutional amendments, have been introduced in Congress to mitigate the president's pardon power, especially after concerns about potential abuses, aiming to ban self pardons, family pardons, and pardons for those coordinated with the president, though none have passed. The reason I'm trying to get control is because why did none of those pass? Who's not voting to say, hey, you cannot do wrong and just have the power to say, it's okay. This is not how that's supposed to go. Do you know the judicial branch, the justice system, is part of that holdup? The Supreme Court has indicated that Congress cannot pass laws that dictate how courts may rule on pardons. Based, and this is by stripping jurisdiction based on a pardon its existence or fundamentality after the executive's clemency power. Where we are right now is we don't have control. We are losing control. This is why the think tank's important. If you are for, hey, if a person does wrong and we know they did wrong, but if they're friends or they do the right thing or they say the right thing to the person who has the power to say, you know what, you did wrong, but I don't care. I don't care. You're out. You're free to go. Go out there, have a good time. You're completely absolved of all your of what those people said you did wrong. That's our judicial system. We cannot keep tearing this thing down and acting like we don't see it. Now, the we I'm talking about are the current Republicans and Democrats that even though the judiciary branch has said, even though the Supreme Court's like, well, we really don't want to give up that power. How come y'all haven't passed this through Congress? Once it's unanimously passed through Congress, we need to be able to now at least have the conversation that says, hey, if all of the representatives of the people of the United States of America are saying at minimum that there's a problem with individuals being able to pardon themselves from wrongdoing, to not even, you can make a pardon to say that, hey, If you even come up with something in the future, you can't bring it up to me. No one, if all of our representatives don't think that that's a problem, we should be able to pull you about. I've lost confidence in you. My representative should be able to say, hey, you're correct, and I'm voting yes, because we need to limit the way these pardons can. You cannot just keep letting people out after our judicial system has locked them up. We need to now go back through the process. And yeah, it takes a while, but that's not the point. We need to go back through the process and say, hey, did you find new evidence that showed that this was not false? And if you did that come before our judicial branch to validate that? This is why we need to have these think tanks. This is why you need to understand that, hey, Glover candidate, your pathway to this, it does bring up this issue. And it does give us control, because if we don't have representatives that are voting to stop these type of things, then we need to be able to pressure on them as citizens to make sure stuff like this doesn't happen. We are allowing our system to erode. We're allowing it because we don't put people in office that want to give us the power to hold them accountable. If I do anything, I need to make that make sense to you. We're not putting people in office that are giving us the power, the access to hold them accountable. Now, they say they're accountable to you, but you can't access them to show them that they're accountable to you. You can't touch them and say, hey, you haven't done what I've expected you to do. You can't. You know, we know that we are really honestly not a zero sum. We're not a zero fault. You make one mistake and everybody is just against you. That is so not true. That is not true. There's so many people here who get second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth and seven and eight chances. So that's not the case. We know that if someone votes on something, that the majority are not going to be like, you know what, we should just snatch them up out of there. It never happens like that. Never. And I'm not saying it should. But there are some things that are important. This is one. This is one. We must not break the judicial system. We must not break the system. We definitely need to reform it, but we don't need to break it. And we don't need to hope that people do the right thing. We need access to put the rules in place. And if you guys are not going to vote on the rules, they're not passed because people are not voting on it. People are voting against it. If that's the case, then we need to apply pressure. We need to be able to apply pressure, citizens. That's why I'm trying to get you to chime in and be a part of the system. Because when I ask you to assist in applying pressure, you're going to need to vote. You're going to need to understand. You're going to need to do your research so that we can start applying pressure where it's needed to make sure that we can start mending this fractured system, because it is fractured. Have a good evening.